Welcome to Universally Judged with Siera Bearchell. On the Universally Judged podcast, we share the stories that you haven't heard from pageant title holders, models, content creators, and actors. In each interview, our guests share a behind-the-scenes look at their life and the lessons they've learned along their journey. This podcast is created in collaboration with Dive Through, a mental wellness company that helps people dive through what they're going through.
Hi, everyone, and welcome back to the Universally Judged podcast. Today we have Miss Universe Australia 2020, Maria Thattil. Maria is a model, she's a beauty and fashion stylist, and she has studied psychology and management. This girl could have her own TED Talk. She could write a book. She is an incredible speaker. She gives so many amazing pieces of advice. You're going to love what she has to say. I am blown away by all the things that she says. I can't get enough of this girl. Enjoy the episode. I think you guys are going to love it.
Hi, everyone, and welcome back to the Universally Judged podcast. I am here with Maria Thattil, Miss Universe Australia 2020. Does that still feel surreal?
You know, I cannot wipe the smile off my face hearing you say it. I'm still pinching myself, yes.
That is so exciting. And it was a week and a half ago that you won the crown. Tell us a little bit about what that journey was like, because for those who don't know, Miss Universe Australia 2020 happened entirely virtually. That's crazy. Tell us about that process.
It's crazy. It was the first of its kind. And, you know, there's so much I could say about it. But I think the fact that we were in the middle of lockdown, pretty much my entire time as a national finalist was spent in lockdown. So we had, you know, the Miss Universe finals, everything opened up. I was announced as a state finalist this time last year. And that was all normal, workshops, events, shoots, meeting the girls. And then when the Victorian girls were announced as national finalists in March, we went into lockdown almost immediately. So what a lot of people don't know is that I was confined to my home for 8 months. So my entire time as a finalist was
gosh.
It was from this room. So there was no gym access, no hairdresser, no shoots, no coaching, never walked before in my life. And then we got word that everything was going to be virtual, but we had to be super adaptable because no one knew what was going to happen. So I guess the plus side of it is it pushed us to be innovative, and it meant that it was streamed worldwide, which it hasn't been before. So we had
cool.
Global eyes on it, which was good.
That is so cool. And you do a lot of different things, from your social media posts to Mind With Me, which tell us a little bit about what Mind With Me is. And did you start that as part of your journey to Miss Universe Australia?
Well, it's funny you ask that. So social media, I've been in the digital space for a couple of years now, and it sort of just started off as something that was fun and an outlet for creative expression. Started to notice I was garnering an audience and used it to be a little bit more strategic in terms of the messaging I was putting out there. And it's so funny you bring up Mind With Me, because in July 2019, I actually went back in my journal and I saw this. I'd written to myself that I wanted to use my psychology degree and passion for giving advice and speaking to people and talking about topics that empower and that can be uncomfortable. I wrote to myself, what is my unique gift that I'll be using to serve the world with? And a year later, Mind With Me was born in the middle of a pandemic, because I realized that it was a really tense social climate. A lot of important social movements were happening, and people were scared to speak on these topics in the social space for fear of saying the wrong thing. But I thought, we're not going to grow if we can't speak. So created an Instagram empowerment series, and every week we just discuss and dissect a topic on, racism or sexual harassment or mental health. And it's showing people that you can have a space where you can talk about different perspectives, and it can be done safely in pursuit of growth. So now that grew into a community. People started coming every week. They're making friends, and now it's formed the community that I'm going to be launching a business with. So it's just now it's growing, yeah. So it's quite exciting because it's just evolved and evolved. But I think when you trust your gut and you follow the energy, it never leads you astray. So
that is so cool. And you have a psychology degree. You were also a fashion stylist, and then you turned the Mind With Me that you started on social media into a business. Tell us more about that. What's that look like?
So it's so exciting because, and as part of Miss Universe Australia, if you win, you do get a grant to invest in a startup or your education. So my startup idea was a community-based social enterprise, and it's pretty much going to be an organization centered around coaching women and girls to live just the most empowered lives and overcome limiting beliefs. And they're going to be backed by a community, because I realized I can facilitate connection. I was doing that on social media. So this is going to be that. It'll have strategic partnerships with charities, other businesses, and I'm just really excited to get started. And little things have been popping up that have supported that and have told me I'm on the right track. So I can't wait.
That is so cool. I did the Mind with you, I guess that was about a month ago now. So that's the first time that we talked. And I had been following you on Instagram for a little while before then. And I was just so inspired by all of your messages, your captions, and just the person that you are. You and I have talked a little bit about pageants and how they kind of before were more like, you got to be 5'8", you have to be a certain size. You are not 5'8". You are on the shorter side in the pageant world. How tall are you again?
5'3".
Okay, and I think I shared 5'3", 5'3", right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I think I shared with you a story when I was at Miss Universe 2017. I said to a national director, I think Miss South Africa is going to win Miss Universe. And he said, no, she's too short. She's too short to win Miss Universe. And I was like, I think she's going to win. She ended up winning. So what do you have to say to those people who maybe told you that you were too short to win Miss Australia?
I think, it's incredible that I'm doing it and that the national organization recognizes it. And for the most part, honestly, Siera, people have been very positive and have received me really beautifully. But there are still people who talk about height, right? And I think that the fact that we are still having these conversations and putting someone's worth and capability in the number of centimeters they stand, you would never say that to your daughters, to your children, to your sisters. You can't do this because you're 6 centimeters shorter than what I would think you are. So, when you say it like that, it sounds ridiculous. But what I would say to people is that height, weight, skin color, ethnicity, whatever it is, it does not have any bearing on your substance or your capacity for impact. It's just a fact. It's not good or bad. It just is. So I also don't believe in arguing to prove my point. So I'm just excited to go to Miss Universe and show people why it doesn't matter. So I'm excited, and I think it's important to lead by example, and it's time to see someone who's a little bit different doing something in this space. So, and I think about what you did as well, and quite often, coming into this realm in the past week and a half, I've noticed a lot of conversation, and sometimes it's overwhelming to see yourself be discussed so publicly. And I was thinking of you and how people had a lot of opinions on you, right down to, just from all arenas. And that's super motivating to think if you could go there and do that, I can do the same. I just have to be focused on my why. So it's very inspiring.
Oh, well, thank you. I appreciate that. And it's definitely a different realm. Since winning Miss Universe Australia, you have now been put on this platform where people around the world have their opinion of you. What has that been like to see your face, your name, and then people giving their opinions, whether they think you're beautiful enough for Miss Universe, smart enough, well-spoken enough? What has that been like?
It's been a really big surprise, because all of a sudden, my parents are the ones who are on YouTube saying, this person posted a review of you in your profile, and all of a sudden people are dedicating a lot of time and effort to dissecting, every element of your personality, your performance. And I've heard everything from people saying she can be the next Miss Universe to, she wouldn't have been my queen if it was my pick. And maybe she got by on beauty or this or that. And you're always going to have an array of opinions, but for me, the thing that's going to get me through is not internalizing other people's projections of how they perceive me in the world. Because ultimately, when we judge people and when we make assumptions about people, we blanket stereotypes, that often has nothing to do with the person, but more the limitations of our mind and how we view the world. So I'm very conscious of that. And I think being conscious of that moving forward is how I'm not going to internalize negative feedback. And one of my followers had actually said to me, when you're coming from a place of inherent worthiness and you know yourself, you just tune out the naysayers and you do what you're here to do. And that's what I'm going to do moving forward. And if people have an opinion, they're entitled to that, and that's okay. But I'm going to do me, and I'm going to be me no matter what people say. So I'm excited to do that.
I love that. And I want to read this. It's a little bit long, but I feel like it's really important. It's from one of your Instagram posts. And you said, at 20, I was told to be mindful of how fashionable I dressed by a female senior because I didn't want to come across as too confident. At 23, I was told by a male supervisor that I wore too much makeup to be taken seriously. At 25, I landed a good job, and a male recruiter in the agency remarked that it was likely an all-male panel who hired me just because of how I looked. It was an all-female panel phone interview. At 27, if I want to wear a bell sleeve top coupled with rose gold heels and a red lip, I'm going to. I'm not going to allow my professional value to be determined by someone else's inability to get past their own mental models of what it means to be professional, strong, or capable. That's amazing. I love that. And why do you think that we have this projection that if a woman wants to dress fashionably, if she likes to wear makeup, if she likes to take beautiful photos, that she can also be well-spoken, intelligent, and capable? Why do you think there is that like barrier in our mind that you can't be a little bit of everything?
Absolutely. I think, and it's so important to address that, because in so many realms in my life, when I think of school, when I think of university, my corporate career in this, I have always been too much or too little for someone. And people have also struggled to hold competing truths in their mind about me. So speaking on that, when I was doing my master's degree in management, what a lot of people don't know is I graduated with first class honors and I was offered a scholarship to Harvard. And on top of that, I was doing a makeup qualification. And I actually had my peers saying to me, you want to be one of those makeup girls? What are you doing? Like you're in, and it's people have these ideas around, well, if you're doing this, you can't be that. And it's these mutually exclusive ideas that you can't be sexy and intelligent. You can't be ambitious and kind. And it's a spectrum of qualities, but people like to put us in boxes. And I think society has done that because we've been conditioned to think that in order for women to be beautiful, successful, or valuable, they need to play it small. And they do that because that's how we've been controlled for a very long time. But we're starting to break out of these molds. We're starting to break out of these ideas. And I think it's important for people to realize that you don't need anyone's permission to be whatever it is that you want. And it's funny you brought this up because I have a manifestation wall and I wrote that 2020 was going to be the year I became a writer, a speaker, a founder, a title holder, a model. And I wrote all these different things that people would sit there and think, well, pick one, or which is it? And I don't need to. I can be all of it and I don't have to prove anything to anyone. So I think it's really important to overcome what society tells you should be doing, or pick one. Which is it? I'm all of it. You know what I mean?
I love that. That's beautiful. That's so amazing. And that's what we're here to do, is to showcase that women are so much more than one thing. We're more than the titles that people give us, than the roles that we assume. There's so much more to us. And so I think you're just such a beautiful, beautiful example in every way. So thank you for that. Thank you for sharing so much of that. I want to know a little bit more. Let's get into the pageant space here. What was it like to hear your name be called as the new Miss Universe Australia? What was that like?
Oh my gosh. Well, you know what's so funny, because we were doing it virtually, we were told that if it was you in the top two, stare down the barrel of the camera and get ready to smile. But when it was down to top two, I couldn't look at the camera because I thought, it's actually real. Like this could really happen. So you see me looking down, and some people have said, you looked really cool, calm and collected. And I'm thinking, I couldn't look at the camera. I just couldn't. So when they called my name, I sort of laughed because I thought maybe first runner up. And then you see the moment the penny drops and I thought, it's me. And I just remember the girls rushing in for a hug, and they were so happy. Like you could see it on their faces, and they were just saying, Maria, you won in a lockdown, you've won. And I think it was a super proud moment. The first thing I thought was, I need to call my brother.
Oh, that's so cute.
Call went straight to voicemail, but
he was too busy for you. Your brother was too busy.
They were too busy cheering, watching it from home because they couldn't be there. So, you know, it was a really exciting moment. It was a bit of a shock, and it did take a few days to sink in, I think.
That is so cool. I watched the pageant, of course, and I thought that one of the most beautiful things was exactly what you said, that the girls were they were genuinely excited for you. They seemed over the moon for you, and I thought that was so beautiful. And then I did see the reaction of your family. It was so cute. It was so sweet. Like they were jumping up and down. It was the sweetest thing. And tell me a little bit about your relationship with your brother and the fact that he helps you shoot a lot of your content, right?
Yes, he does. And that's why I think I've connected to you and your brother so much because, like I said, being in lockdown, I didn't have access to anything or anyone. So when we found out, for example, that the pageant was going to be virtual, the first thing my brother said to me was, Maria, we are going to win Miss Universe Australia. And I said, oh my gosh, but we don't have the same access to things or whatever it is. He's like, it doesn't matter. So every week he would be carting outfits in the car with me. We'd be driving, 5 kilometers within the radius because that was the law at the time. We couldn't go beyond 5 kilometers from our home.
Oh
We
my
would
gosh.
quickly shoot content, put the mask back on, get in the car, go home. And then, what people don't realize is he actually coached me for my Q&A as well. So I'm
So cute.
and being a uni student, the way that I thought I would prepare for the top 10 Q&A on current events, I started researching everything. I mean, I think I've got like a toe in every bucket. I understand everything, but I started to research and he comes in and he says, Maria, what are you doing? And I said, I'm preparing, and going through my research. He's like, that's not how we do it. He came up with this methodology somehow, saying this is a framework for responding to questions, sat with me for a day and quizzed me on everything from education to the death penalty. I'm like, that's a little bit heavy. He said,
You need to know. You have to have an opinion on everything.
Exactly. And he's like, you know what, if you're Miss Universe, you need to be able to speak on everything. So he was my hype man. When I was sitting there, he's like, sit up straight and pull your shoulders back. You're Miss Universe. And I'd sit there saying, Dominic, what's going on? So he was my pillar of support. Mum and dad were there too, but because we were in lockdown and together, he was the person who was there every step of the way. We're very close and, he's a best mate. So I'm very lucky to have him. Very lucky to have him.
That's so sweet. What's your age difference again?
So he's 25, I'm 27. So
Okay.
It's 2 years. Now we're close. But when you're in your teen years, it can be a little bit of an awkward gap. And it's good that we've rekindled that now.
That's so sweet. For those who can't see him, Leighton, my brother's in the studio right now, so he's listening to this as well. That's so sweet, though. I love that he's been part of the journey, and to be honest, he's more harsh than any pageant coach I know, so I think he's the one you need to keep helping you for Miss Universe. That's amazing.
I'll keep him close.
There you go. And heading into Miss Universe, it's the biggest pageant in the world, in my opinion. How do you feel about the fact that you will be wearing the Australia sash at Miss Universe?
My cheeks could burst. I've thought about it for a while, and I've thought the ability to stand up there, because when you think about Australia, it is such a rich country. We are one of the most multicultural societies in the world. So especially as a daughter of immigrants, and our country is rooted in First Nations history. We're built on immigration. It's an honor because I think I'm not just standing up there as Australia. I think I actually represent the world that we live in. And to be able to do that and to be breaking so many molds in order to stand there and have Australia on my chest, I'm excited and proud, but now I'm ready to work. I said to my national director the day after, I'm like, this is when the work begins. I'm ready. So I'm excited.
That's so exciting. And there's obviously a lot of pressure, though, that comes with it as well. Do you feel like you're starting to see people talk about you and stuff? Do you think that pressure is going to get to you in any way? Or how do you feel like you're going to handle the pressure, the stress, and all of that of the pageant itself and leading up to it?
So I'm going to be dedicating a lot of time to preparation. And I have already noticed people have opinions and reviews and things like that. I think where it's negative and potentially, phrased in a way that can be a little bit unkind or nasty, I tune out and try and take the constructive message. But just yesterday, someone had posted an opinion and a review and saying, look, she might have areas of opportunity to improve in this and this. And I just thanked them because I think what people don't realize is, I've been in lockdown, so I do need to improve certain things. And if they don't tell me, how do I know? So for me, I think it's important to listen to feedback. And I've got a targeted plan of all the things I want to be able to do. And I know I've got a team behind me. I don't only have the Miss Universe organization, but I've got my agency. I've got Dominic.
There you go, your brother.
Yeah. So, I'm just going to be taking a lot of different viewpoints and trying to stay true to myself, but improving certain things that I know I can improve on. So it's just being open, being receptive, and being committed. So look, I'm ready. I said to them, I'm ready. It's easy to work.
Also, I think that if you can get through 8 months of lockdown with the strict rules that you had, you can prepare for Miss Universe. That sounds so intense. Speaking of that being intense, how did the lockdown, preparing for Miss Universe Australia, how did that all play on your mental health? Did you feel like it was impacted positively, negatively? How did you handle all of that?
Yeah, for all Victorians, we had two lockdowns in my state, where the first one was in March, and that was when everybody was excited about picking up a new hobby and baking, and it was a novelty of we're all at home. The lockdown eased in June, but 3 weeks later, we went back into lockdown with no knowledge of when it was going to end. It was super long, and it took a toll on the mental health, because we just felt defeated. We saw, over 1,000 job losses a day. Like, it was a really hard time for us. So I don't want to make any secret of the fact that there were mental health challenges for me. There were days where I was struggling to sleep. I didn't want to get out of bed. We struggled to exercise, eat well. But I allowed myself to process that, and I didn't suppress it thinking I need to show up as this and this and this to prove to everybody I can do it. I think if you're not taking care of yourself, you can't show up for your family, your friends, your ambitions. So I allowed myself the opportunity to process my emotions. It took me about 4 or 5 weeks to really get a hold of what was going on, and then say, okay, it is what it is. How do I adjust? So it took a while, but I think I bounced back. It was a little bit up and down, but it was an upward trajectory.
Well, that's great. I'm sorry, I'm giggling because I think is there birds in the background?
Oh my gosh.
No, I feel like, no, you're like the real life Cinderella. It's like the birds are coming to like make your dress.
They're actually here ready to bring the water over for my shower. And,
yes.
Because I'm about to break out into song.
A dream is a wish.
I sing that song to my dog. That's our song. So this is really just setting the scene right.
Yeah, tell us.
I don't hear them now. I don't even notice.
It's just yeah, we can hear it. And it's super cute. we're like, wait a minute. Where's that coming from? Speaking of your dog, what's your dog's name again? And tell us about your dog, because we got to know.
My heart expands when you bring him up. He is the love of my life, Siera. When you talk about Ted, I want to jump through the screen because I know. So his name's Thattil. He's a 7-year-old German Shepherd, and he is an angel sent from heaven to light everybody's life. I have a folder on my phone called Axel that I'm ready to show people. I'm that dog love. So he's the best dog you'll ever meet.
I can just think of, I think it was a picture or video that you had, and Axel had a bonnet, or you had something, it looked like a little old lady bonnet on his head. It was very cute. It was very cute.
Dress him in, he fits into because he's quite a big dog, so I'll put my t-shirts and things on him. We once put a scarf around him and a t-shirt, and he looked like a modern day hipster. Please no one called the RSPCA, which is an animal rights organization. He is loved, but love to have fun.
I love that. Oh my gosh. Okay, so on that note, Axel is playing the role of a human, which maybe Axel feels like a bit of an imposter, trying to act like a human. You've spoken on your Instagram about imposter syndrome. So let's get back to maybe a bit of a serious note here.
Yes.
What do you feel like is the most important tool to get past that feeling of the imposter syndrome that we all have? For me, doing this podcast, there have been moments where I'm like, what am I doing? I'm not qualified for this. How have you gotten over those feelings?
Mm-hmm. I remember I did my first campaign shoot ever for modeling this time last year. And I remember the day of the shoot, I drove there with a pit of anxiety in my stomach, thinking, why am I doing this? Like, why am I here? And over the course of the year, I've also had those little thoughts starting to creep in, but I think I've done a lot of work to overcome it. And I think the biggest thing when it comes to overcoming imposter syndrome is you have to be able to interrupt the stream of negative internal dialogue, because these voices and these ideas that you're not worthy, you're not qualified, who are you to do this? That isn't something that comes from you. We're not born inherently thinking, I don't deserve to achieve my dreams, or I'm not worthy, I'm not capable. So when you can interrupt that, you can actually ask, hang on, why am I saying this? And, for the most part, it's societal conditioning. So for me, I always think if it's something that I'm doing that maybe I haven't seen before, I think if I don't do it, I now feel a bit of a responsibility with the platform that I have, that if I don't believe in myself, I'm not showing other people. And now I've noticed the birds just quickly, they're singing in a chorus at this message. But I'll just say, having a little bit of a platform now, but even when I didn't, I thought to myself, if I can just impact at least one person by overcoming my own limiting beliefs and doing what I want to do, that opens a door for them. There's always got to be someone who does it first. So if you're someone who feels like you don't deserve to be there, ask yourself why you think that, because I can guarantee you it doesn't come from you. So you have every right to transcend that and change the narrative in your life.
I love that. That's so beautiful. You have so many amazing words of wisdom. This is another caption that kind of goes along with that, where you talk about thinking that we need to airbrush our bodies to exist, and that without a fix that we're being bold on social media, and that you say here that you want us to challenge a culture where loving and accepting yourself is considered courageous. On that, I remember, I think it was Amy Schumer, she talked about how she's always called brave for showing up in like photos in a bathing suit. And she's like, if I was as slim as, say, a Victoria's Secret model, no one would be calling me brave. So what is it about society that it is considered an act of courage to show ourselves with, whether it be wrinkles or stretch marks or something that is seen as an imperfection? Like, why do you think that exists, and how can we overcome that?
Yeah, and it's funny you brought that up, because very recently I did that. I think that might have been the post on stretch marks or something that I'd posted, or perhaps me without makeup with a little bit of acne or pigmentation showing, and people said, wow, you're so brave. That gives me the confidence to do that. And I think the fact that we're still doing that, it's almost like a bit of a backhanded compliment, because it's implying that you actually don't deserve to show up confidently in this space, but kudos to you for doing it anyway. And I think it's again that it's well intentioned, but it's rooted in outdated ideas about, well, this is what beauty looks like, and this is what confidence looks like, and this is what success looks like. So I think it's having these conversations and being really conscious of language and reframing language. You know, you can do it in a way that doesn't attack or alienate anyone, and appreciate the sentiment, but say, hey, maybe we stop calling ourselves brave, and maybe we just say, about time we just started doing this because we want to, and we're not overcompensating with applause and, you know, kudos and things like that, because you don't deserve to do that any less than someone who has been perhaps glorified, or the ideals that have been glorified. We all deserve to be seen and represented, and I don't think we should be saying this is the exception to the rule, because it's still perpetuating that gap. So, you know, again, I think it's just rooted in, well, this is what we've been conditioned to think, so we're appreciating and celebrating it. But now I think it's time to change the language, so we're not alienating people further and making them think they are out of line or different for doing what they've always deserved to do.
You're so sweet, so easy to talk to. I feel like you have so much to say. What would be your biggest piece of advice for young women in the world today?
I think the one thing that I always say is my biggest advice for young women is that no matter what your past is, no matter what your circumstances are, it doesn't matter how much money you have, where in the world you live, you deserve to show up in your life in the capacity that you want, and you have the ability to define your future, and you have the ability to break out of that. And then I would say, to add on to that, some women do face disproportionate access to the things they need to do that. So for young women, it's not just thinking about ourselves, but we need to be thinking about, well, for sisters who don't have what we have, how do we uplift them too? So it's, you have the ability to define your own future, but you also have a responsibility to help other women define their future too, where they face barriers to do that. And that would be my biggest advice. It's do what you want to do and show up how you want to show up, but take care of your sisters too and create space.
I love that. And I think there has been kind of like a likelihood for women in the social media space, in pageantry, to want things for themselves, but they don't necessarily want to celebrate each other. You are all about celebrating other women. Why do you think that's so important to celebrate each other in the pageant space, just being a woman in general, being able to share opportunities with each other? Why is that so important to you?
I think it's really important to me for two reasons. I think one, a scarcity mindset will tell you to be envious of another woman's success. And when you see other women going ahead and maybe doing what you want to do or achieving what you want to achieve, when you're envious, you think that that somehow takes away from you in some capacity. So you're living in a mindset of there isn't enough and I've got to climb over other women to get it. But that's not the reality of it. And when you're not thinking in an abundance mindset and you're competing with women around you, you are inadvertently depriving yourself of opportunity. And you're actually not trying to exist in a reality where there's enough for everyone. And that's, a patriarchal lie that we have to fight each other for that one top spot. So for me, one thing that I loved about the Miss Australia program is there were so many women where, despite not meeting, we became friends, and we were saying to each other, if it's you who wins, I'm going to be behind you 100%, because you recognize that we all have different things to offer, unique ambitions, different prospects, different advocacies, different purpose. And if one woman wins, it doesn't mean that you're any less worthy. It just means that maybe it's their time, but you can have your opportunity too. And if you think it's robbing from you, then you are robbing yourself, because we're all connected. So it's important to not perpetuate divisiveness or segregation, because for a long time, that's how we've been kept small. And I think for women to progress, we need to want that for each other and not center ourselves. And that's why it's been so good doing this. I've connected with so many like-minded women who are fantastic, and you have the opportunity to put that message forward. So I'm excited about it.
That's so cool. I love it. And I think that proves to a lot of people who believe that pageant girls are just like catty out for their own thing. That right there, I think, proves that it isn't always the case that we're just competitive against each other and catty and fighting and all that. On a more fun note, what has been the most fun part, exciting part, the thing that you've loved the most about preparing for the competition and now going forward?
I think the best part about it has been being able to get my family involved, because, you know, I don't recall ever seeing a Miss Universe program where someone's dad made it to the show. Like,
your dad's like in the background sitting on a chair. Like, what is that?
Which Miss Universe interview have you watched where the dad's sitting there in double denim and a gold chain, like, yep, you've got this. So now the funniest thing about it is it hasn't felt like my journey to Miss Universe. It's felt like my families and other people are involved, and now we're all sort of doing this crazy thing. And I also want to break down that, because yes, we see so many inspiring, incredible women, but we're real people. Do you know what I mean? We've all got funny families and things that happen, and I've actually been able to do this and invite people in. And I've loved that, because I've always loved sharing my family. And what I'm looking forward to the most is challenging a lot of ideas about what it is to show up in this platform. I've been asked a lot, you know, why do you think Miss Universe is still relevant nowadays, and things like that? And the reality is, because of this program, I'm able to drive change from within. But now I have a platform, and my voice has been amplified in just the week and a half that I've done this. I know that I've got more global attention for the messages I want to drive. Now I have the resources to create a business that is going to change lives around the world. So it is relevant, it's important, and I'm excited to challenge stereotypes and to continue to break the mold.
Beautiful. Beautifully said. And I think so many people, they still think that Miss Universe is just like Miss Congeniality, waving, parading on stage in a bikini and a gown. Some of that is part of it. It's so much fun, but there is so much more, which is why we're sharing some of your story, Maria. If you could design your national costume, which I'm sure that you're going to play into some of that decision, Miss Universe has a national costume competition. Some people might not know that. What would yours look like?
I don't know what it would look like yet, but I can definitely tell you it would be big. It would be theatrical and dramatic, like my personality. But it would also, I would want it to pay tribute to our First Nations people, to the Indigenous community in Australia, and to the fact that this country has been built on immigration. So I want to show that. So my national costume, if it was up to me, it would be a reflection of the universe that we live in, because that's what Australia is. It's in our national anthem. We say we come from all the lands on earth. So I would want it to pay tribute to that.
So cool. I think you should get Axel involved.
I'll parade him along the side as well.
That would be so cute.
Yes, we could do it. We definitely could do it. I mean, who knows? If the pageant is virtual, maybe he'll make an appearance. We don't know. So I'm excited. And I think it's really crazy to think we don't know how it's going to look and things like that. So I still want to make sure putting, best foot forward.
Mm-hmm. And another note about Miss Universe, if you could choose the country for Miss Universe to be hosted, what country would you choose?
Oh my goodness. Well, I think I would start by saying I would hope to choose a country that is relatively COVID safe for everybody. But
Good start.
Yeah, good start. And I think it'd be really nice if we did something where, last year Zoe Zabini won, and imagine we had it in South Africa to honor her and her win. And I think in particular because she has been so phenomenal and inspired so much change. And she's done that from her New York apartment because she hasn't had, you know, a conventional reign. So I would love to see it in South Africa because one, they do things incredibly, and two, it's a tribute to our current queen who I think, you know, deserves so much more than what she was able to get this year. So I'd say South Africa.
Beautiful. What do you want people to know about the pageant space and you entering the pageant space?
I would want people to know that the pageant space is absolutely changing, and I understand why people have the ideas that they have, but I would also want them to know that the women who enter, women like me, we are going to be the reason we're paving the way for a completely different future. And the thing that people should know about me is, you know, it's my first time doing this, done it in a lockdown, and done it to break so many norms around perceptions of what it is to be Australian, around what it is to be a model or a title holder, and what it is to be beautiful, capable, or worthy. So if I can do it, then you can quite literally put your mind to something and achieve it anyway, no matter what your experience or your circumstances or your past is. That's what I want people to know.
Amazing. You also were not the typical pageant queen in the sense that you haven't been doing this for years. Just like you said, you didn't grow up like hoping to one day be Australia's representative at Miss Universe. What made you decide to enter Miss Universe Australia this year? I know you've touched on wanting to break the mold and all of that. Was that your biggest reason for entering, is wanting to use the platform and all of that, or give us some more info on that?
Well, you know, like I said, I had watched Miss Universe over the years and I loved it, loved the pageant, but I just never thought someone like me could do it. And again, growing up, it's because if you don't see it, how can you believe it? That's why representation matters. So last year, the woman who won was actually Indian Australian, Priya. And when I saw that particular group of girls, they were so different, and not just in their ethnic backgrounds, because that's to be expected with Australia and that's the norm, but they were different in their advocacies and in their backgrounds. And we had engineers and architects and models and lawyers. And it was just like, wow, no matter who you are, what your background is, you can show up here. So that made me think, maybe I can throw my hat in the ring and see what happens. And when I did, it was always thinking, I know what I'm doing now at the moment on social media and with my career goals, but if I actually won this, that is an opportunity to amplify your mission and your vision beyond anything I could have conceived of. It's connected with me with so many people, with resources I didn't have. And it was, you know, you cannot deny it's such a powerful platform. So it was worth the challenge and putting yourself out of your comfort zone. And because I saw someone who was different, who did it, I thought, I can do it too. So representation, it really matters.
Representation matters so much. And I think, like you said, if we don't see something, why would we ever think that we can do it as well? And being the first person to do something can be really challenging. So for Priya, that might have been challenging for her to be one of the first, maybe to like look like her, to win the title, because in my mind, from what I thought of like former Miss Australias, you typically think of a very light-skinned, blonde woman, right? And so I think breaking that mold, it's so important, and somebody needs to do it. And as soon as you see that, you think, I can do it too. So I think that's so important. And yeah, it's such an interesting thing that we don't believe we can do something if we don't see it. But that's just kind of how things are. And that's why, like you said, representation is so important. Speaking on that, who's your favorite Miss Universe title holder?
Oh, I knew you would ask.
Because there's so many different women. They're all so different.
That's what I mean. And there are so many that I love for different reasons. And I always struggle with this question because I can tell you a few and I still cannot put my hand on one, but
that's okay.
A few of Miss Universes that I love. One, there are a couple of queens from India who I grew up watching and really related to, and they were so eloquent and intelligent and articulate, and they built fantastic careers with their platform. Jennifer Hawkins, who, she just put Australia on the map. And from that, she's been able to stay so humble and grounded despite becoming a successful entrepreneur and model. I like that she stayed true to who she is. So that's something that I draw inspiration from. I love Demi because I think what her and her husband have been able to use the platform for and how resilient she is and what she does, that's inspiring. And Zosie as well, because again, that there are so many little girls beyond just, little black girls and boys who are going to look at her and see that. She has shown people that, even people like me, you can show up and look different and still do it. So there are so many queens that I look to and that I love, and it's all for different reasons. And I think that's why this platform is important, because every year we learn something different. Every year someone inspires you to think differently. So it's powerful.
I agree with you in that everyone is so different. It's so hard to narrow in. And just for those who don't know, Jennifer Hawkins, she was Miss Universe 2004. Demi Lee Peters, now Tebow, was Miss Universe 2017. And then Zoe Bini-Toonsey is the current Miss Universe 2019, for those who aren't as familiar. But you're right, just like women in general, the pageant title holders of Miss Universe are so incredibly different. And I know the MOAG crown, the new crown, I think it's called Power of Unity, which I think is so powerful because it shows that we're all so different, but we are united in this common cause, this common platform. If you could talk to your younger self, if you could talk to younger Maria, what would you tell her? What piece of advice would you give to her?
I love talking about this, because when I think of, those moments where, how you've said, what do you do when you're faced with negativity or when people judge you, and how are you going to get through it? Every time I'm finding myself struggling, I genuinely think of my younger self. And I think it is so important to be what she needed, because I didn't have that. I didn't have someone telling me, actually, you can do it. And look at what I've been able to achieve, so you can, and breathing these words of faith and confidence into me. So if I could go back and tell younger Maria anything, it would be, firstly, I'm proud of you, and be proud of yourself. Because for a very long time, I was very critical and self-rejecting, and it came from internalizing a lot of racism. It came from internalizing a lot of sexism, and I started to, show that internalized misogyny and racism to myself. And I started to denounce my culture, so my Eastern roots, growing up in a Western context. I thought I had to change everything about myself to be someone else's idea of, this is what an Australian girl looks like. This is what a successful woman looks like, a sexy, beautiful woman, an accomplished woman. And I just kept compromising bit by bit by bit of myself till I didn't know who I was. So I would tell younger Maria, be proud of yourself, be yourself. And when you do that, you make it okay for someone else to be themselves too. So that would probably be the biggest piece of advice I would give her.
That's so good. So important. And you said that you moved to Australia when you were 9?
No, that was, I was born and raised here, but I've got
you were? Okay, you were born and raised in Australia. Okay.
But my parents moved here in the 90s, so maybe
in the 90s. Oh, okay, I must have got that from there. And so what kind of racism did you face when you were in Australia? Like, did you have times where people were full on being like, you do not belong here, you do not what have you faced?
Yeah, I think because in the Australian landscape, it's even you saying, well, when I think of Australians, I think of tall, blonde, the beachy surfer girl. For a long time in the media landscape here, it was Anglo-Celtic perceptions of Australia. And that's, a post-colonial idea of what we are. It doesn't acknowledge that before, colonization, it was Indigenous Australians who were here for 60,000 years. And then, we were, the country was colonized, and then there was immigration, but still people have this idea of, Anglo-Celtic perceptions of, well, it's to be Australian, you need to be white. And as a result, we didn't see that in the media landscape. So when people saw people like me, my peers at school and things like that, the only representation they had for South Asian people with things like The Simpsons. And literally. So it's like, I would get asked things like, so does your dad drive a taxi, and is he in 7-Eleven, and do you run a service station? And no, literally it would be things like,
oh my God,
it was based on limited representation. So all they had was this bit of information, but this is what we are. So all their assumptions were based on that. And I started to internalize that thinking, I should be embarrassed of the movies we watch and the customs we have and the clothes we wear. So I just denounced it. But, even now, my brother, I think I posted a video on racism because just 2 months ago, my brother was at work and somebody had yelled at him to go back to his country.
Oh my God.
The only thing that we are just as Australian as the next people, but it's people looking at you and seeing skin color, and they see difference and they other you. So that's why this win means so much to me, because I'm not going to wait till later to talk about the fact that we have to bridge our understanding of what it is to be Australian and what it actually is to be Australian, because it goes beyond ethnicity. And I think anywhere in the world, We judge people based on outward factors and we make assumptions, but it's so important to transcend that, because you never get to the root of who someone is by making these assumptions and judgments. So it has been a journey, but it's something that I've stopped internalizing and I've had to unlearn. And, now I'm going to use it to teach other people as well.
That's crazy. I can't imagine, putting those perceptions onto people and thinking, oh yeah, this person looks like this, so this is the box they fit into. But then again, I guess in every single thing that we've talked about, whether it be height, body size, people have this idea of this is what this person should look like. And so this is where they fall into. They fall into these boxes, these categories. And people in general are so much more than fitting into boxes. It's so crazy. And going forward then, what is your, I guess, driving force of being Miss Universe Australia? What ultimately do you want the world to know about you having the title this year? Because of course you get to represent Australia at Miss Universe, but you now have a full year with this title. Like, what's the ultimate thing that you want to do or achieve or let people know?
I think the biggest thing that I want to be using this title for, and if I get to go to Miss Universe and do my best there, what I'll be doing is championing inclusivity, and it's challenging people's ideas of stereotypes, boxes, and norms. And I think we've gotten very comfortable with societal conditioning for a long time. I want people to start questioning anything and everything, because all the beliefs we have, we've inherited. So as Miss Australia, I'm going to be using that to shift the dialogue on what is it to be Australian, but what is it to be a global citizen as well? Because you look at any country and we all might have had a different ethnic background depending on where we lived. And I think we need to challenge the idea that skin color, the way you look, your height, your weight, that will tell you everything you need to know about a person, because it won't. And you would know that as well, going to Miss Universe and having people make assumptions about you because of something as trivial and arbitrary as, the way you looked. It's just, that's what I'll be, as Miss Universe Australia, as Miss Universe. And then, in my business endeavor moving forward, it's getting people to overcome limiting beliefs based on judgments, stereotypes, changing the way we see people and the world.
Maria, that is so amazing. I love that. And when you just said that, actually reminded me, there was sadly a former Miss Universe actually, who made assumptions on me when I was at Miss Universe, saying that because of my body, I mustn't have worked very hard to get to Miss Universe, and that she knows me and she knows that I would have worked harder to look a different way, and that I have a lot of, what did she say? I can't remember everything exactly she said, but basically, by the way that I looked, I didn't put in work to show up at Miss Universe, which was it's sad. It's sad, especially coming from someone who you saw as an inspiration. But again, like you said throughout our talk here, is that how we look is how people will perceive certain things about us. And it's sad, but it's not true. And that's what we're here to prove, is that the way we look is not necessarily who we are as people, the work that we put into things. And we're so much more than just looking a certain way, wearing certain makeup, having our hair a certain way, being a certain size. There's so much more to us than any of that.
And what you've just said about someone making assumptions about the work you've put in, do you know why it's so important in a space like Miss Universe to see diversity of body size and to have body inclusivity? It's because for the longest time, we've been told that health equates to thinness. And you're healthy when you're skinny and you weigh a certain number on the scales. But depending on your metabolism and your genetic factors and it's a myriad of factors that you could be the most healthiest person in terms of your diet and the work that you put in, but your body is genetically programmed to look a certain way. And those comments made about you, it reflects an ignorance to that. And then those ideas being given a platform is dangerous. It's important to let people know that health and fitness and worthiness doesn't have a certain look. And that's the whole thing about breaking molds and challenging ideas. It's don't subscribe to limiting beliefs we've been fed for the longest time, because it keeps us small. And it keeps us ignorant. So I think what you've done is incredible, because you started a conversation but really, after you did it, you would have seen a number of women who look like you thinking, I deserve to be there too. And I'm not any less than. I'm just as abundant and worthy. So we need to see people challenging those ideas, and that's exactly what you did. And that's what I hope to do too. So
Well, you already are. You already are. You're already such an inspiration for so many women. And I think it's so, so important to see representation in every single way, see inclusivity, see diversity. It is so important because, as sad as it is in a way, we are a visual world where we do need to see things sometimes to know that something is possible. So I commend you so much. Congratulations again. Your win was so well deserved. I was like a fangirl. Like, I think it's so funny. I'm like, I went to Miss Universe. I represented Canada. But because I have followed you now for several months, when I saw you win, I was like, I was cheering from my room. So I was so happy to see you win. Every girl deserves it for different reasons, of course. But just knowing you and the messages that you have, you're such an inspiration for so many. And congratulations.
Thank you so much. I think I'm the one who's like fangirling listening to you say that you're fangirling because, I followed you too for a while, and I think it's incredible to see that support, and for someone who has done what I hope to do and to know that they back you and they believe in you, it's incredibly uplifting. So thank you. And thank you for this. This chat was amazing.
My pleasure. Thank you. The things that you've said, it's like, I don't even know how you come up with some of this. I'm like, damn girl, you are intelligent beyond belief. So thank you so much for sharing your insights, your words of wisdom. You are incredible in every way, and I cannot wait to follow your journey to Miss Universe.
Thank you. I'm so
How exciting is that to say Miss Universe? They're going to say Australia, and you're going to be the girl walking out. That is so cool.
I love that, and I cannot wait. And the fact that you're just, oh my gosh, going to be following, and that there are people involved in this journey. I'm so excited to take everyone on the road. I actually had my crown delivered to my house.
Do you have it? Is it around? Is it? Yeah, let's see it. What? We want to see it.
I'll grab it. So, it is because I was crowned in a pandemic.
Oh yeah, she's putting it on. She's putting it on.
The crown's coming out. Because it was a pandemic, they couldn't actually have the crown sent to me. People would know in advance that I'd won. So they sent it to my home, and I filmed a live reactions with my parents reacting to the crown and my brother. So that'll be up on YouTube once I get my official shots. But this crown is worth nearly $1 million.
Get the F out. I have goosebumps. Okay, wait.
It's 956,000 Australian dollars.
Wait, how much?
It's $956,000.
Oh my God, yeah, which is like $1 million Canadian, like around $1 million Canadian, I think.
But it was designed in collaboration with an Indigenous artist, which is why it's so special. It pays tribute to our First Nations people. So.
Okay, wait, are you gonna see it? Okay, okay, you wanna come see it? Dun, dun, that is so amazing.
I'm just trying to make sure it sits properly because I'm not very good at putting it on, but.
So that must be all diamonds.
Yeah, it's got, in it has Australian diamonds, pink, white, and champagne. And it's just, I cannot comprehend that I'm wearing this on my head.
Are you kind of scared to have that at your house?
I am a little bit. And look, it's worth more than my life, but
Oh my gosh.
I have official shots in it in a week. And, we'll be doing lovely shoots in it and things like that. But it's such an honor to wear it. I think because, like I said, it was made in collaboration with an Indigenous artist. But yeah, doing things a little bit unconventionally this year. We couldn't see the crown on the head. So I thought, I'm going to show people what my mom, my dad, and my brother look like. And Axel.
Yeah, Axel. I was going to say, we need like Axel as your bodyguard. He's got to be wearing like a bulletproof vest and like,
I've got state-of-the-art protection with Axel, so we're all good on that front. But yeah, it's very exciting, a little bit unconventional, but I'm excited to take people on the road on YouTube and things like that. It's exciting.
That's so cool. I think people want to see more of that, like the YouTube behind the scenes. Yeah. That's something actually that I wish I would have done, is taken people more behind the scenes of all that, because that's what helps make it so real, so much more relatable, is being able to see some of that, like seeing your family's reaction. Like, that is so cute, and I cannot wait to watch that. That is going to be fun to see. So on that note, go ahead.
Sorry. I was just going to say, like, quite literally my parents' reactions, because they couldn't be there at the pageant, it is extra. So I'm excited to share that.
That's so cute. So on that note though, where can people find you on Instagram, YouTube, and all of that fun stuff?
Well, if they just type in my name to YouTube, I've got a channel that's currently being revamped as I now start to put out more of this content. But if you follow me on Instagram, I'm Maria Thattil, you'll see me there. but also I have a blog, which I have not written on in a little while, but that's coming too. So I think if you type my name into a search engine, you'll find these different mediums. Follow me there. And I'm very excited to take you on our road to Miss Universe. So thank you for having me, Siera.
Thanks for listening to Universally Judged. Be sure to subscribe to our show and leave us a review. If you want more great content, find us on Instagram at Universally Judged. See you next week.